All right, welcome to the March Microbrand Showcase. Each month here on the channel, I take a look at some of the most interesting microbrand watches that are either being released or have recently been released. Last month we had some really crazy ones. This month I feel like the theme is more just really gorgeous ones. We've got some really cool watches to take a look at today, so let's jump into it. Hey guys, welcome back to Just the Watch. My name's Dave, I live in Japan, and I love to collect affordable watches. And if you don't have a huge budget to spend on watches, microbrand watches tend to offer some of the best bang for the buck out there. And there are just dozens of microbrand startups out there right now, tons of new watches always being released. So it's a pretty fun time to be into budget watch collecting. So this is a relatively new segment that I'm really enjoying doing. Each month I pick 4 or 5 microbrands that I think have something interesting to offer and invite them to send over a watch for a quick review on this segment. Some of the watches that we're looking at today were given to me to keep. Some of them are prototypes that I've been sending on to others. However, as always, I did not receive any monetary compensation for this review, nor did any of the brands involved have any input into the content of the review itself. Here's a brief rundown of the watches that we have coming up ahead. Timepieces sent in their LEGATODIVER, which is a dive watch inspired by guitars. Radcliffe Watches out of Oxford, England sent over their Tsunami Diver. And Heron Watches out of Montreal, Canada sent over their Gladiator, which is kind of a dress-style diver sports watch. All right, to start, let's check out the LEGATODIVER from Timepieces. Timepieces is a brand that's headed up by Adrian from Horology Story, which is one of the larger Indonesian YouTube channels. So he's a big watch collector and really into guitar, and he wanted to find a way to combine those two passions in a watch. So this is a watch that he's producing that's launching on Indiegogo shortly. Let's take a look at it. The LEGATODIVER is a rugged 300-meter water-resistant dive watch that's housed in a 39.5mm case, which is only about 12 millimeters tall, making it very comfortable and usable as an everyday wear piece. And on top of that, it features a very elegant and beautiful design that draws its inspiration from guitar design with a lot of cool little musical flourishes built into it. So this is a watch that's kind of ambitious. It's trying to do a lot of things at the same time, and I think it does a pretty good job of pulling it all off. I've seen a number of kind of concept watches where they're trying to take inspiration from race cars or cameras, and they kind of go a little bit overboard, which is fun. This watch shows a lot of restraint. For me personally, as someone who does not know much about the guitar at all, I might not even realize that this watch was inspired by guitars if you didn't tell me that up front. The most obvious influences come from the bezel, which is patterned after the fretboard on a guitar, which makes it a very unique and interesting aspect of this watch. It's not a bezel design that I've seen implemented anywhere else, and I think it works very well. It's a very interesting pattern, and yet it's not distracting, and the bezel is still fully functional. It's also nice that this has just excellent bezel action. It's very easy to get a good grip on it, and again, the action just has a really pleasant feel to it. Very satisfying clicks, no backplay. They really nailed that aspect of the watch. The other very noticeable guitar influence is the case back. They've done an interesting thing by using a see-through case back, but then printing on it these kind of guitar strings to make it look like the back of the watch is the opening of a guitar. So very fun touch there. And also interesting to note is in order to get that case back oriented properly, rather than it being a screw-on case back, it's held on by actual screws. So a little bit unusual there. Flipping back over to the front of the watch, another very interesting touch is the hour markers on here, which I assume have some kind of a guitar influence, but I don't know exactly what they are. I just think they look great. The watch features circular applied markers that are filled with kind of a ring of lume. So the center of the marker is also metal, but then there's a white filling of lume, which just has a really interesting and unique look. Again, something that I haven't seen implemented anywhere else, and it looks really cool both in the light and in the dark. And when you do get this in the dark, it really is a treat. That detailed fretboard bezel is fully lumed. And they even loomed the date wheel, which is really cool. I've seen that done very rarely, and this works great. You can actually read the date pretty well in the dark. They also put lume on the crown, and again, those sort of donut-shaped hour markers really look great in the dark as well. So particularly after dark, this watch is really fun and very legible. The lume has a healthy application. It lasts a long time. Getting BGW9 here, so nice strong blue glow. Finally, this watch is powered by the Sellita SW200, so you get a Swiss automatic movement with a very smooth sweeping, higher beating second hand, which is definitely a premium feature when it comes to affordable watches. So when you take that into consideration, along with the uniqueness and the build quality that this package offers, I think their introductory price of $489 is very appealing. And even after it begins to jump up to their retail prices or after the early bird prices, I think they're still going to be asking a pretty fair price for everything that's offered here. The LEGATODIVER will be launching on both Kickstarter and Indiegogo on April 5th, so I'll leave a link to that down below. If you're interested in affordable watches and keeping an eye on the watches that are out there, definitely invite you to subscribe to the channel. And if you would like a cool t-shirt like this, I'm selling these on my website at justthewatch.com. Okay, next up, we're going to take a look at the Radcliffe Tsunami. Now, Radcliffe is a brand that's based out of Oxford, England. This is the second watch that they've kickstarted, so they have a little bit of experience behind them, which is always good to see. So let's take a look at their sophomore offering. The Tsunami is a really solid 42mm dive watch. I mean, the case, bracelet, bezel, crown, clasp, everything functions flawlessly. Even though this is a prototype, it feels like a fully production level unit. And to top it off, I really like the design and the style that they've gone for with this. The design is tight and cohesive, everything comes together perfectly, and yet it has these bold colors and these kind of blocky shapes that really give the watch a lot of character and help it to really stand out amongst kind of a crowded micro brand diver market. One I have in is the yellow dial, and this is a sandwich dial watch. You get these great big blocky hour and minute hands. With this kind of black and yellow color scheme, it kind of reminds me of like a construction site warning gates. Now, as I mentioned, this is a prototype, so on the dial you have a placeholder logo. That X is going to be replaced with the Radcliffe logo. Also, the prototype manufacturer made a mistake on the bezel accent color. You might not be able to tell here, but it's a slightly different shade of yellow than the dial right now. That's going to be fixed in the production as well. It will be the exact same color on the bezel and the dial. Speaking of bezel, well, the bezel action is excellent. You get nice defined clicks, good amount of resistance, really solid, no backplay. The bezel itself is a little bit hard to grip. It's kind of a very thin bezel, and there's not a lot of places around the case to get a really firm grip on it. And that's actually probably the only real negative to this watch that I found while testing it. The watch case is very simple and is fully brushed, and it actually features a helium release valve in it, so really helping with that 300 meters of water resistance. The engineer bracelet feels very well manufactured, very comfortable on the wrist. Again, very solid feel, screw links. You do need to be aware that it kind of has male end links on that, which does make the effective lug to lug go all the way up to 56 millimeters. On my 7¼ inch wrist, it did not bother me at all, but if you have smaller wrists, it might be a little bit of a challenge to wear this on the bracelet. The watch also has some heft to it, weighing in at 185 grams. Again, for me, I didn't find that to be uncomfortable, but that's going to vary depending on your preference in watches. I also really love the clasp that they've gone with. It's a very solid clasp. It's not one that I see too commonly on microbrand watches like this. Fully milled, great feel and functionality. And while the clasp on this prototype features a dive extension, they are going to be getting rid of that in order to add micro adjustment to the clasp. So the prototype has a dive extension but no micro adjust. They're going to sacrifice the dive extension to get the micro adjusts, and for me, I think that's the right call. Finally, the case back is one of the best made case backs that I've seen. Features a very deep and detailed pressing of the Great Wave by Hokusai, kind of representing the name of the watch, that's Tsunami. Now, I'm not totally sold on the branding of this as the Tsunami. I feel like the actual look of this watch looks more European, but the name and the case back definitely give a Japanese vibe to it. But the Tsunami name on the dial and the case back both look really cool, so I'm not really going to complain too much about that. Finally, this watch features a decent application of BGW9, giving you a nice blue glow in the dark. The lume isn't super bright. I would say it's about average for a dive watch. Not particularly impressive, but it'll definitely get the job done. Considering the fact that this watch has a Miyota 9015 movement, a sapphire crystal, 300 meters of water resistance with a helium release valve, I think that being able to get this at under $400 on the Kickstarter is a really good deal. The Kickstarter for the Radcliffe Tsunami is going to be closing shortly, so if you're interested in this, I would jump on it quickly. And I really liked this one. I think this is a great, really solid watch, so if you're in the market, definitely go check them out. Okay, next up, we're going to take a look at the Gladiator from Heron Watches. Heron Watches is a brand based out of Montreal, Canada. Like Radcliffe, this is also their second time to Kickstarter. So again, a little bit of experience there, which usually translates into a little bit less risk when it comes to Kickstarter. Let's check out the Gladiator. The Gladiator is an elegant casual watch. The overall proportions on it are just about perfect with a 41mm case diameter. It also features a sapphire crystal, 100 meters of water resistance, and they're planning to put a Miyota 9039 movement inside of this. Overall, the watch features a very simple, minimalist aesthetic, which, while adding a lot of versatility to the design, could come across as a little bit generic. One characteristic of this watch that does add a lot of uniqueness and character is the 12-hour Roman numeral unidirectional rotating bezel. The metallic bezel features a matte sandblasted base with polished Roman numerals, and I gotta say, it really does look sharp. It also adds a little bit of functionality to the watch in that you can use that as a dual time function. However, in practice, I found that it was kind of difficult to use in that Roman numerals are a lot more difficult to read than Arabics. This is particularly true when the numbers 9, 10, and 11 in Roman numerals can all be read either upside down or right side up, making it often a little bit confusing to tell which way the bezel was oriented. The Gladiator also features a very nice embossed pressed case back, which I believe has an image of a heron on it. It comes included with a molded rubber strap that fits nicely to the case and is very comfortable on the wrist, and has a nice custom buckle with the heron logo on it. Now, the watch that I have in for review is a prototype, and in some ways it feels like it's somewhat of a rough prototype. There's a lot of significant changes that are planned to be made to the production unit, which I'm glad to hear. Heron is planning on upgrading the movement to a Miyota 9039. This prototype has an NH35 in it. They're planning on upgrading the bezel action and the loom as well. And these two changes in particular I think are really needed. The loom is very weak on the prototype version, bordering on unusable. So my hope would be that the loom would be significantly upgraded, but without having the actual production units in hand, I can't really speak to what it's going to look like. And the bezel action on this one is okay. It's not terrible. It has kind of a light feel to it with a little bit of back play. Would really like to see that tightened up. And again, I'm happy to hear that Heron is on the ball and working on upgrading and improving that. And additionally, they will be including a screw down crown, another feature that is not implemented on this prototype unit. So because of all of those significant changes, it's difficult for me to comment on the actual build quality and features of the watch because so much is going to be changed in the production unit. From a visual standpoint, this is pretty much exactly what the watch is going to look like. And while this is a very sharp, very clean, very elegant look that I think will appeal to a lot of people, I just can't help but feel like if it weren't for that 12-hour bezel, this would really just be a pretty generic Submariner homage. And I would have liked to seen a little bit more originality either in the case design or in the dial markers or handset choices. As it is, I think they're really leaning on that bezel design to define the character of this watch, and I just feel like I would have liked to have seen some of the other elements playing a little bit more of a supporting role in the design and character of the watch. This watch is live on Kickstarter now, and depending on whether you get in on the early bird pricing or not, the price is going to range anywhere from $240 to $340. And if Heron can successfully implement the changes that they have planned for the production model with upgraded loom, screw-down crown, upgraded movement, and upgraded bezel action, I think that's going to be a really appealing price for these watches, particularly given the choice of the 9039 movement and those great dimensions and clean minimalist looks. The Kickstarter for the Gladiator is live right now. Their super early bird slots are sold out. I think they have some slots left at around $310 if you're interested in getting in on this. Link to them down below in the description. Now, the last one I'm just going to mention briefly because I am planning on doing a full review of this watch, and that is the Adamascus dive watch from Wise Watches. This is an absolutely gorgeous dive watch with just a beautiful dial and overall style and design. It features a 904L stainless steel case. This is the first watch I've encountered that features a stainless steel case made out of 904L stainless steel, which is a type of steel that Rolex is popular for using. It's not something you typically find in micro brands or in budget watches. It's supposed to have a higher corrosion resistance and be able to take a higher polish to it. And that really shows on this watch. It has a really beautiful high polish look to the entire case. Features a sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel, absolutely insane loom. Yeah, lots of good stuff with this one, but it is on the pricier side. Right now it's on sale for $599, but the retail price is actually a little bit above that. But like I said, this is a watch that was already slotted for a full review, hopefully to come towards the end of this month or early next month, but I figured it would be worth mentioning in this video as well. If you're interested in this, I'll leave a link to it down below, but also keep an eye out for the full review to be coming in the next few weeks. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for March's micro brand showcase. I will be doing this again next month in April. I've already got a couple of watches lined up, so I'm looking forward to checking those out and sharing those with you. Drop me a link down below. Let me know which of these watches was your favorite. That'll wrap it up for today. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.